Hey everyone, today we're diving into a dark romantic thriller that's full of suspense and intense romance. This is the story of Laura and Massimo, where an ordinary girl's life takes a complete turn after a kidnapping. And you're watching this on Script Woven, the channel where we unwrap the full story and hidden secrets of your favorite movies and web series. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an explanation. How does a dangerous mafioso enter Laura's life? And how does a forbidden love story begin? Stay tuned to find out. Let's get started with the full explanation of 365 Days, 2020, step by step. She was a hostage who was kidnapped, but because of the irresistible factor, she fell in love with the gang leader who kidnapped her. Don't provoke me. I won't. But she didn't know that this dangerous action would ruin her life. The woman's name is Lola. She was a hardworking, strong woman, but because of her busy work, she neglected her boyfriend. So in order to save their relationship, Lola had to choose the day of her birthday. She arranged her boyfriend to go to beautiful Sicily for vacation, but she forgot that when she woke up, she found herself in a completely strange environment. Not only the door was closed, but even the windows were locked, until the sound of the lock was heard outside the door at night. So out of curiosity, Lola still had the courage to carefully go through the dark castle wall, but she found her huge picture on the wall of a luxurious hall. "I'm beautiful." This sudden accident made Lola stay in the original place for a moment, but she didn't wait for him to come back from shock. A handsome but dangerous man behind her like a ghost in the castle. "Are you lost, baby girl?" "But I'll carry on." Lola was too scared and felt very dazed. Then she fainted in the man's arms and only realized when she woke up that she had been kidnapped by the man in front of her. The huge fear made her instinctively start a fierce resistance, but it didn't work. But fortunately, the man didn't violate her plan. Instead, an incredible story came out. The man's name was Massimo, and he was the biggest heir to the Sicilian family, but he was pushed to the edge of the storm. "Not only was he young, somewhere inside me, I had this feeling that I was going to die, and I was going to die, and You had 365 days. I'd do anything so you can fall in love with me. You'd make 0 on your birthday. Nothing change. I'll set you free." And bring her back to the room. However, Laura's appearance caused the old butler to be deeply worried. Although he knew how important Laura was to Massimo, he also knew that women would only affect his speed of shooting and even destroy the whole family. Even so, Massimo didn't listen to him at all, even to the old butler who watched him grow up and was loyal to him since he was a child. He mercilessly pulled out the truth from his waist. Massimo would never do that, because this bullet was to be left to the traitor who humiliated the family. But he didn't know that Laura, who wanted to run away, didn't give up. Instead, when no one was watching, he sneaked out again. But he didn't expect that he ran into the scene where Massimo killed the traitor himself. At that moment, his brain was blank and he passed out again. When he woke up again, it was already noon the next day. However, Massimo sat next to the bed and didn't move. Obviously, he watched him all night. He explained to Laura that the man was dead. Although his family did all the shady business, they also had principles and a bottom line. Abduction of children is absolutely not allowed. But even so, he still couldn't get rid of Laura's idea of leaving. It's just that Massimo didn't follow his wishes. Instead, he bought some necessities for her on the street for 2 hours at the command of a kiss. After that, he followed himself on a private plane to the United States. Unexpectedly, he completely enraged the other party. At this moment, the air seemed to have solidified, because before that, no one had dared to challenge his authority. However, surprisingly, Massimo, who was originally angry, suddenly became silent. It's because of the love deep in his heart that can't be controlled that he couldn't say any more threatening words to Laura. What's more, after Laura put on that extremely attractive, sexy red dress, he completely ignored her opposition and struggle and forced her to go to a place where all women couldn't resist. Then, in the face of the other party's confusion, he generously bought the most luxurious commercial street in the city. But he didn't know that he would soon regret this impulsive decision, because for a woman who wants to be strong all her life, even if she is in a difficult situation, she will not be wronged in this matter. So in Laura's heart of revenge, under the powerful superpower of Massimo, he instantly swept the whole street of luxury shops. Even those elite subordinates, who are usually in good health, could only shake their heads helplessly in the dark. He didn't know that Laura's guilty intention was not long. So while the others were resting, Laura rushed to the street at the fastest speed and successfully attracted the attention of 2 police officers. He naively thought that as long as he found the police, he could get rid of Massimo's control. However, he had no idea about the power of this underground emperor. When he saw Massimo, who followed him, the police immediately closed the door and left as if nothing had happened. The only hope he saw was broken like this. Laura's mood suddenly sank to the bottom of the valley, and at the same time, he made it clear that as long as he was still in this country, he would never be able to escape Massimo's clutches. He could only change his mind and agree to go to the United States with him. Is it true what you said earlier? What do you mean? That you won't touch me without my permission? I'm not the monster. You think I am. With Massimo's guarantee, Laura boldly laid out her own conditions. Not only did she want to get her cell phone and computer back, she also wanted to eat the most authentic Polish dumplings for dinner. However, for Massimo, who has a clear vision, satisfying these was just a piece of cake. She even invited Michelin star chef directly from Poland. She specially cooked a sumptuous candlelight dinner for Laura. Their relationship also got a temporary ease. It's just that even though Massimo already has absolute money and power at the moment, he doesn't care about it. Instead, he desperately wants to get something special from Laura. I'd like you to teach me how to be gentle, for you. Laura didn't expect this cold-blooded gang leader to have such a soft side. At the same time, she also changed her mind about Massimo. So after she successfully got her cell phone and computer back, Laura didn't call the police at the first time. Instead, she lied to her parents that she was working. She thought Massimo would keep her promise to stay in the dormitory for a year. I didn't expect her to sneak into her bedroom. It's just a surprising thing. Massimo didn't do anything wrong. Instead, he just lied next to Laura and spent the whole night quietly like this. Laura was impressed by him again, so she took off her guard and finally stopped opposing Massimo's approach. But she still didn't forgive him and teased him like a wild man. She would only use violence to solve problems. Don't provoke me. I won't. However, Massimo didn't care. Instead, he ordered Laura, who was disobedient, to carry her private plane by force. Then he tied her tightly to the seat as a small punishment for himself. Then, under the pity of Laura's face, Massimo went to the US to negotiate with other gang members. But he didn't expect the woman's revenge would be so strong. On the day of the negotiation, Laura wore a sexy short dress on purpose and appeared in this extremely serious and dangerous situation. She was shocked by Massimo's retaliation. Listen to me. He's gonna kill you and then he's gonna kill me. Shall we? However, Laura refused to give up and introduce the relationship between the big families. She repeatedly told him to keep a low profile. But Laura, who was still angry, didn't care at all. Instead, she took advantage of the retaliation. She ignored the guard's obstruction and broke into the room where the big forces negotiated. But she didn't know that she was about to make a big mistake. Unbearably, Massimo pulled Laura out of the room and warned her to keep a low profile again. What the hell are you wearing? A couple €1,000 heels. However, Laura, who liked to fight with him, didn't realize the seriousness of the problem at this moment. Instead, in order to stimulate Massimo, she ignored the other party's order again and walked straight into the pool to warm up with others. At that moment, Massimo felt a surge of blood. But before he had time to stop Laura, his sexy posture was mistakenly thought to be the girl of the nightclub, until he was eaten by a man. Laura reacted with a scream and completely ignited Massimo's anger. Seeing the beloved woman being humiliated, he completely lost his mind and rushed forward angrily. The whole hall was in a state of panic, even though Massimo and his men had temporarily controlled the situation and successfully brought Laura out. However, Laura, who had made a big mistake, still didn't realize the seriousness of the problem until she accidentally heard the old butler and Massimo having a fierce quarrel. This is how she learned that the man who was shot yesterday was actually a heavyweight in the enemy gang. Even though the butler tried his best to persuade Massimo to hand over Laura to calm the other party's anger and avoid the bloodshed of the two big families, he unexpectedly angered Massimo directly. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I'm sorry." At this time, Laura finally realized the seriousness of the problem and bowed her head in apology to Massimo for the first time. But it was too late. Massimo, who was angry and lost his mind, had completely lost his patience with Laura. "I shot his ass. I wouldn't have to do it if you didn't just like her and put on your little show. So that's my fault that your friends tried to rape me. That's my fault. Fuck off. Enough." After the quarrel, Laura turned around and left with great disappointment. In the end, Massimo chose the latter between his brother and the woman. But even so, the conflict between the two also caused an irreconcilable situation. However, just as they were arguing, Laura accidentally fell into the raging sea. In the midst of this, Massimo couldn't care so much and jumped into the sea without hesitation. This was the only way to save Laura, who was almost drowning. "Laura, please, please." However, as if the wind and snow had changed, he moved his whole body until Laura slowly opened her eyes. Massimo, who had been by Laura's side, could no longer contain his feelings. For the first time in front of a woman, he showed his fragile side. "You have to understand. I can't lose you. I don't want to." It was this unreserved love that finally ignited Laura's frozen heart. So when Massimo turned around and left, Laura held his warm hand tightly. At this moment, all the unpleasant moments seemed to disperse. Then he responded to Massimo's affection. It also made the whole deck burn inside. So in order to declare his sovereignty to the world, Massimo paid a lot of money to invite the top international designer to sculpt Laura into a shining focus. Then he took her to the luxurious party of the Black Gang Empire. This high-profile appearance is not only an extreme love for Laura, but also an announcement to the whole underground world that she is his unacceptable home. At this moment, Massimo has already withdrawn from the cold military prestige of the former Black Gang boss. At the bottom of his eyes is the passion and tenderness of a passionate man. It's just that no one can imagine that the turn of fate always comes inadvertently. The appearance of a woman instantly destroyed all the beauty. Bravo. Beautiful dance. At the same time, it also pushed this relationship to the abyss of unknown. "I'll kill her. I'll give you the most precious thing you have." At the same time, Massimo, who could not be ignored, also lost his mind, because Anna is not only the daughter of the enemy gang, but also a famous henna. So in order to protect Laura from Anna's revenge, Massimo had no choice but to send his assistant to escort Laura to the plane back to Poland. However, he also made Laura misunderstand that Massimo was going to abandon himself. Until a sudden call broke the silence, the assistant's expression suddenly became serious. So he no longer understood Laura's doubts and hurriedly arranged his men to send her away. Then he went to that unpredictable future. It's just that Laura, under Massimo's arrangement, safely returned to her long-awaited hometown and lived in a mansion prepared for her. But Massimo was like evaporated from the world. There was no sound. Like a brilliant meteor, it just slipped through the sky for a while and then fell into the endless darkness. But the worst thing is that Laura found out at this time that she was pregnant with Massimo's child. This sudden accident made a calm daughter-in-law restless. "I just can't believe it. Are you fucked after 2 months of friendship?" "Laura, stop it. Give me one. You're pregnant. Where are you? I'll burn the other one for you." Fuck. And the reason why her best friend was so angry was because Massimo had just left Laura and then disappeared, like evaporated from the world. But Laura didn't care about it and insisted on giving birth to this child. It's just that even so, after her best friend gave birth to a child, she still firmly stood by Laura's side. And that was the story. And this child will be raised. 365 days, it will be part beautiful one, after such but a tell life. me, Was wise, this true love, not necessarily,
or just a dangerous
game
game
of desire?
If you
However,
want
the
to see the
longing
story
was like
of
a
part
weed
2,
growing in
let
Laura's
me know
heart
in the
and
comments
making her
below.
restless. And don't
So in
forget
order
to
to help
subscribe
Laura get
so you
out of
won't
the
miss
haze,
the next
her best
explanation.
friend
brought her a black card left by Massimo and spent it in various high-end places. Although Laura seemed to have come out of the haze on the surface, in fact, only she knew that Massimo's figure had long been deeply imprinted on her soul and could not be erased. Until that day, Laura dressed up and saw the person she didn't want to see at a party. that was her ex-boyfriend who had betrayed her. However, she had seen the fervor of the fire, and how could she be greedy for the warmth of the candle? What has changed? Do you remember or not? Did you sleep with someone else? Laura, yes, it's all true. It was like that, but I realized at that time that I really love you. Although her ex-boyfriend tried to deceive Laura with sweet words, he didn't know that Laura had seen through his ugly face long ago. No matter how much the other person begged, she turned around and left without looking back. However, she didn't expect that the other person followed her like a dog bite. I have to go to bed. Wake up. Laura, I really miss you, but I'm so sorry that I don't miss you. Although Laura gave the order without mercy, in front of a strong man, she was so weak that she couldn't resist at all. Until a familiar and magnetic sound was heard. Her ex-boyfriend's eyes became clear in an instant. Then he ran away like a ghost. Yes, this is what the room is doing. It was Massimo who Laura dreamed of. Even if there are thousands of words in her heart, it can't compare with the grievance and anxiety she suffered during this time. In the end, it became a loud slap on Massimo's handsome face. However, Massimo didn't care. Instead, he used his hot body again to calm down all Laura's anxiety. Until he found the shocking gunshot, Laura suddenly realized that the reason why the other person suddenly disappeared was that she almost regretted losing her beloved man forever. At this moment, she could no longer hide her true feelings in her heart. So she said Massimo's long-awaited answer. I don't need 365 days because I love you. Massimo was shocked to see Laura. He couldn't believe his own heart. He had been waiting for this moment for too long. So on the day of Laura's sister's wedding, Massimo, who was deeply moved, suddenly made a bold decision. That was to break the iron law of not marrying a woman for hundreds of years. He was going to marry Laura. However, when Laura's parents asked him about his career, Massimo suddenly became silent. I'm a gangster. At this moment, the air suddenly seemed to be frozen, but fortunately his parents only took it as a joke. This relieved Laura. So after the wedding, Laura followed Massimo back to his castle. Everything seemed to be back to normal. The wedding preparations were also going on steadily. It's just that Laura wasn't in a hurry to tell Massimo that she was pregnant and wanted to surprise him on the day of the wedding. But she didn't know that an unknown danger was coming. Time soon came to the wedding day. Laura wore the wedding dress everyone was looking forward to. Laura wore the wedding dress everyone was looking forward to. She looked pure and innocent. She even treated her best friend directly. However, her love was out of reach. This man had no end. Fate seems to always like to play tricks on people. Just when happiness was near, Massimo's butler suddenly received a mysterious call. He broke the beautiful moment that was hard to come by. It turned out that someone was going to kill Laura. This sudden accident made this calm old man stay in one place for a while. Although he never liked Laura, he knew better. Once the other party had a 3 long and 2 short, Massimo would be devoured by the flame of revenge. The whole family would be in chaos. So he immediately ordered his men to rush to the wedding venue. At the same time, he madly called Massimo. As a result, the other party was always on the phone. At this moment, Laura was looking forward to telling Massimo that she had an important secret to share with him face to face. I'm sorry too. But it was too late. When the old butler tried his best to get to the castle, Laura's car slowly entered the dark tunnel. At the same time, the phone in Massimo's hand also sounded a desperate voice. And Laura's car never came out of the tunnel again. All that was left was endless sadness and regret. So when Massimo rushed to the butler in a hurry, the other party slipped and smashed his last chance. It was also a hard-fought battle. It was as if all the happiness had been broken like a bubble. The past and Laura's little things were like a raging tide. He was submerged in endless sadness. However, fate is sometimes like that dark tunnel. We never know what's waiting for us ahead. But love is a beam of light that illuminates the darkness. It makes the cold heart learn to jump and let the lost soul find its way back. Perhaps the best encounter in life is not about how far we can go, but about making each other a better version of ourselves. Just like Massimo and Laura, their story tells us true love doesn't care about identity and the past. It only cares about the heartbeat and resonance at this moment. Even if we have to part in the end, the lives that have changed because of love will never be erased by time. Because of love, there is eternity. Because of encounter, there is eternity. However, movies are always merciful, and the story of him and Laura is far from over. And that was the story of 365 Days Part 1. But tell me, was this true love or just a dangerous game of desire? If you want to see the story of Part 2, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next explanation.